$20,000, a responsible emergency fund, 3 months of cushion built carefully, patiently over years. And then nothing happens, no emergency, the money just sits there. But something is happening, something that never triggers a notification, never shows up as a withdrawal, never appears anywhere on your statement. That $20,000 is smaller today than it was a year ago, not because you spent it, because of where you put it. Here's what I've noticed about people who actually build emergency funds, not the ones who intend to, but the ones who do. They're the ones who sacrifice, who say no when it's uncomfortable, who watch others spend money they don't have and choose the slower path anyway. They deserve to have that money protected. And most of them have no idea that their biggest financial mistake isn't the debt they're paying down or the investment they haven't started yet. It's the account they opened years ago and never questioned again. That account, the one at the bank they've had since college or since they got their first job, is costing them money. Right now, quietly, every single month. Let's be precise about what's actually happening, because this isn't abstract. The national average for a traditional savings account sits at 0.4% APY. Inflation is running near 2.9%. That gap, 2.5 percentage points, is the real return on your emergency fund, not 0.4%, negative 2.5%. On a $20,000 balance, that's roughly $500 gone every year, not withdrawn, not spent on anything, not lost to a market crash. Just evaporated, erased by the slow, patient gap between what the account earns and what inflation takes. And here's what makes this particular loss different from most financial mistakes. It's completely invisible. There's no moment where you feel it, no month where the balance drops, no statement that shows the charge. The money is all still there, it just can't buy what it used to, and every year this stays unfixed, the loss compounds. Now, the reason most people haven't moved their emergency fund isn't ignorance. It's actually the opposite, it's caution. I can't risk my emergency fund. That sentence sounds completely rational. It even sounds responsible. But it contains a hidden assumption that's costing real money, the assumption that safety and better returns are opposites, that protecting capital and earning near-inflation returns cannot coexist. They can, and they do, in 4 specific account types most households are currently underusing. Think of emergency savings not as a single lump sum, but as a structure, a hierarchy of accounts, each matched to a different time horizon within your protection plan. The foundation is a high-yield savings account at an online bank or federally insured credit union. This is not a complicated product, not a risky one. Same FDIC protection up to $250,000, same-day access, but with an APY between 4% and 4.5% at competitive institutions, 10 to 40 times the national average. On that $20,000, the difference is $800 a year in interest versus $80, not a marginal improvement, a structural one. And the only reason most people haven't done this yet is that their traditional bank never called to say, hey, you should put your emergency fund somewhere else. Banks don't make that call. The second level is a money market account. Very similar yields, government insured, but with one meaningful advantage: check writing and debit card access, because real emergencies don't always pay by wire transfer. A mechanic, an urgent prescription, a landlord who doesn't accept Venmo, in those moments, the ability to pay immediately with physical access to your funds matters. A money market account keeps purchasing power protected and keeps you ready for how emergencies actually happen in real life. The third level is a Treasury bill, short-duration U.S. government securities maturing in 4, 8, or 13 weeks. Backed not by FDIC insurance, but by the full faith and credit of the federal government. Currently yielding between 4% and 4.5% and exempt from state and local income taxes, a meaningful advantage for households in higher tax states. T-bills are not as instantly liquid as a savings account. If you need funds before maturity, there's a process. But they're appropriate for one specific portion of your emergency fund, the money you would not need within the first 30 days. And for most households, if they think honestly about it, that's a large portion of what they've saved. The fourth level is a short-term CD, 3 to 6 months, for the deepest layer. The portion reserved for a prolonged crisis, extended job loss, a long medical situation, something that unfolds over months, not hours. That money earns a slightly higher guaranteed rate, locked in, working as hard as possible while you hope it never gets touched. Here's the shift that changes everything. Most people treat their emergency fund as a single thing, one account, one balance, one purpose, but an emergency has a time structure. Some emergencies demand money today: a burst pipe, a tow truck, an unexpected copay before noon. Some emergencies unfold over weeks: a repair that's more serious than expected, a short income gap, a medical follow-up that stretches across a month. Some emergencies last months: job loss, prolonged recovery, a family situation that pulls you away from income for a season. When you see that, the hierarchy stops being complicated. It becomes obvious. Match the account type to the time horizon. Money you might need in 24 hours belongs in a high-yield savings account. Money you'd access after 30 days can work harder in a money market or T-bill. Money you'd only touch in a prolonged crisis earns more in a short-term CD. You don't change what your emergency fund does. You change how efficiently it protects itself while it waits. The hardest part of this isn't the knowledge. Most people can follow that logic within about 2 minutes. The hardest part is what comes after the logic, the moment when understanding something doesn't translate into doing something. Inertia is what keeps $20,000 in a 0.4% account for years after someone first reads about high-yield savings accounts. And inertia here isn't laziness. It's actually a byproduct of something healthy. People built their emergency fund and never want to think about it again. Set it, forget it, stay protected. But the world didn't freeze when they opened that account. Inflation didn't pause. The gap between what the account earns and what inflation takes kept widening quietly every quarter without announcing itself. Run this forward 10 years, $20,000 earning 0.4% against 2.5% annual real loss in purchasing power. The nominal balance still reads roughly $20,800. But what that money can actually buy when the emergency arrives has shrunk by more than $5,000 in real terms. That's not a rounding error. That's one full month of expenses gone while you were being responsible, while you were protecting yourself, while you were doing everything right except this one thing. The account was supposed to be the safety net. Instead, it became the slow leak. Here's what capital preservation actually means, not the version that sounds cautious, but the version that works. Protecting your money doesn't mean ignoring what's quietly consuming it. It means understanding that doing nothing is a choice. And right now, for most American households with emergency funds sitting in traditional savings accounts, doing nothing costs $500 a year in real purchasing power. The high-yield savings account doesn't require more risk. It requires a different bank, one that actually passes interest rate gains to depositors instead of keeping the spread. That's not a sophisticated financial strategy. It's not reserved for high-net-worth households. It's available to any household in America, and it takes about 20 minutes online to set up. Here's how to move through the hierarchy without disrupting your protection. Step 1. Open a high-yield savings account at an FDIC-insured online bank. Competitive institutions currently offer 4% to 4.5% APY, no minimum balance, no fees. Transfer your full emergency fund there. This single move stops the silent drain for most households immediately. Step 2. Once you're comfortable, identify the 30 to 90-day layer of your emergency fund. Money you'd only need after exhausting your immediate cash. A money market account or short-term Treasury bill is appropriate here. Step 3. For deep crisis preparedness, a 3 to 6 month CD with a guaranteed rate protects the final layer, the money you hope never gets touched, from losing any more ground while it waits. Your emergency fund was built to protect you from what could go wrong. That's exactly the right instinct. That instinct built something real. But there's a second layer of protection most households skip entirely: protecting the fund itself from the slow erosion that happens when no one's looking. Financial security isn't just about having the money when you need it. It's about making sure that money still buys what it needs to buy when that day comes. The accounts exist, the rates are real, the hierarchy is clear. The only thing standing between you and stopping this loss is the same inertia that's been costing you quietly for years. Now you know exactly what it costs.